Every extraction shooter gives you the same fantasy: drop in, get loot, get out, and for years, the genre has been defined by one thing, and that is the gear that you find. Tarkov, it's about whatever gun you bring in. Hunt Showdown, it's about the loadout you paid for at the menu. DMZ, well, nobody cares about DMZ, but what if, and stay with me here, the thing that made you dangerous wasn't just the weapon in your hands, it was the entire body you were wearing. Is that a weird thing to say? That's exactly what Bungie is doing, or trying to do, with Marathon, and it might be one of the most important things happening in the extraction shooter space right now. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why Marathon's build crafting system is fundamentally different from anything else in this genre, and why it could either save this game or become the most interesting experiment in extraction shooter history that ends in failure. First off, I want to say if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like down below, hype the video as well. If you want to stay up to date with Marathon content, we also do Halo around here, make sure you subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. Trying to hit 25,000 subs by the end of this year, and I believe that I can do it with your help. Alright, let's get into the video. So let's frame the problem first. In Destiny 2, build crafting is the game. It's where you spend hours assembling exotic combinations and mods and tuning stats. The fun really isn't in the mission, it's showing up already optimized. In extraction shooters, that depth basically doesn't exist. In Tarkov, your build is, I guess, do I have good ammo and armor? Do I have money for all of this? It's deep in its own way, but it's also transactional. You're shopping, not crafting. In Hunt Showdown, your loadout matters, but it's still fundamentally a weapon selection problem. There's no character layer underneath. Marathon looks at this gap and says, we know how to do this. In Marathon, you don't pick a character, you pick a shell, a biosynthetic body that your consciousness transfers to for each run. And as of right now, there's going to be 7 at launch: Destroyer, Assassin, Recon, Triage, Vandal, Thief, and Rook. Now, I know what you're thinking, and I've even thought it myself, this sounds just like a hero shooter. It's just Overwatch with extraction mechanics. But the more and more I think about it, the more I realize that this isn't true. Your shell is not your identity. Your shell is the foundation. Bungie's own dev team has described this as a starting point, not a ceiling. The archetype gives you a direction. What you do with it is entirely up to you. I just made a video about every runner in Marathon explained. I will leave a link to that down in the description, but I highly recommend you check it out to get more of an in-depth explanation about each runner. But just a quick recap, you got your Destroyer, that's kind of like your tanky guy, your energy shields, aggressive pushes, built for players who want to get up in people's faces. Assassin's got camouflage and smokes, and it's basically the shell that nobody sees coming. Recon's your intel gathering shell. It's essential for coordination. Triage is the healer, but also not a passive one. He's like a combat medic. Vandal is just pure aggression, mobility, repositioning, vertical gameplay. Thief is the loot goblin fantasy made real. And Rook is your scavenge mode specialist. 7 shells, 7 completely different relationships with the map, the enemies, and your squad. But here's the thing, and this is where it actually gets interesting. The shell abilities are just the surface. What's underneath is a system that Bungie has basically been practicing for a decade in Destiny, and that's kind of wild to think about. So let's go deeper. Marathon's build crafting has 2 engines running under the hood: cores and implants. Cores are shell specific. They don't just adjust your stats, they change how your abilities function at a mechanical level. Think of them less like stat modifiers and more like ability rewrites. For example, the Vandal's arm cannon is already a powerful mobility tool, but equip a specific core and the knockback from that cannon no longer damages you. Instead, it propels you into the air. You've turned that weapon into a jump pad. Another core lets Vandal's double jump become a triple jump. If you stack that with the implants that increase movement speed and jump height, you're basically playing a completely different game than the next person. For implants, they work differently. They're universal. Any shell can slot them. They provide stat bonuses and random perks, and the highest tier of them have a fixed bonus perk on top of that. One example of this is the Ping V5 implant, which keeps your pings attached to enemies even after they break line of sight. And honestly, in an extraction shooter where information is the difference between life and death, That's not a quality of life buff, that's a actual game winner. Also, the cores do have rarity tiers. There's standard, enhanced, deluxe, superior, and prestige. The higher the tier, the bigger the impact, and you do not want to lose these. And that's what should worry you, because everything can be lost on a bad run. Back to Destiny, you build something powerful, and it stays powerful. Death has no cost. And Marathon, that beautiful build that you've been assembling, if your squad gets wiped and nobody extracts, it's gone. That's tension. That's the difference between investment and risk, and is completely unique to this genre. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Marathon is really the first extraction shooter to layer genuine mechanical depth into that risk. You're not just losing a good gun, you're losing a whole playstyle, your identity. So here's another layer that doesn't get talked enough, in my opinion. In most extraction shooters, team composition is a conversation about roles. Who covers, who pushes, who heals. Marathon introduces something a little bit more nuanced, and that's build synergy. Bungie has talked about strategizing your crew composition for every run, not just who plays what role, but how the builds interact. So if you think about it, a Recon player with wall awareness will feed information, an assassin with active camo exploits that info, and a destroyer with a shield core absorbs the counter push. That's not a loadout, that's an entire system. And that's just a surface level look. And because builds are tied to scavenge gear, no two runs will ever look exactly the same. You might not have your best core this time, or your implant that you have is rolled badly, but you have to adapt, and that adaptation is already in the game. To me, the extraction shooter genre kind of has a retention problem. If you played enough Tarkov, the loot becomes almost mechanical. Play enough DMZ, you'll want to jump off a roof. Play enough Hunt, the novelty wears thin. I think that the genre is brilliant at first, but is often hollow, no pun intended, at depth. And to me, Buildcrafting kind of solves this problem. You're not staying because of the loot itself or getting loot, you stay because of what the loot lets you become. And everything that we've seen, everything that we've been told about Marathon, should tell you that it's not just Hunt Showdown with abilities bolted on, or Arc Raiders. This is a genuinely new design philosophy. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the system isn't without risk, because let's be real, the alpha got a rough reception, game got delayed, genuine concerns with it. Invisibility and wall hack abilities in a PvP-heavy extraction shooter can create a real balance problem, especially with the builds that you can make out of it. If the Assassin shell or the Recon shell become must picks, the build diversity the system promises just kind of collapses on itself. There's also the seasonal resets. Every season you go back to square one, your vault's gonna get wiped, and for some players, that's a good fresh start. For others, that's losing everything you work to build. And while many games do have these seasonal wipes in extraction shooters, it is a bold call from Bungie. And whether that enhances or destroys the build crafting loop is gonna be one of the biggest unanswered questions until we actually get there. And the elephant in the room is this is a $40 live service game from a studio that's had a very rough few years, and trust does have to be earned back. But to me, the system underneath the bones, this is one of the most interesting designs the extraction shooter genre has seen, and is actually something that actually makes me excited to try it. So this is where I land on all of this. Marathon is not going to succeed or fail because of map design or its gun feel. Those do matter, but it's going to succeed or fail based on whether this build crafting system delivers what Bungie is promising. Because if it does, if the cores and implants and shell combos genuinely create a new experience that's fun and engaging, the experience that Bungie is describing, then this isn't just a good extraction shooter. This is an extraction shooter that finally gave players something to build towards. And in my opinion, for a genre that's been begging for depth since Tarkov accidentally invented it, I think that's everything. We've been told for years now that extraction shooters are the next big thing. Arc Raiders was doing phenomenal. Can Bungie come in and release this PvP-focused version and have it pop off? That remains to be seen. The game comes out in just a couple of weeks, March 5th. The server slam is February 26th. Next week, we're literally gonna find out. In the comments down below, what shell are you gonna run first? I keep going back between Triage, Destroyer, and Recon. I hope to get a lot of time with all three of them. Again, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like. turn on that bell so you don't miss another video, subscribe, hype the video, all that cool stuff, and I will see you in the next one. Peace!